Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Truth Transgression, or Verite Cassis. So, this video, I wanted to talk about the advent of artificial intelligence and its implications on the broader world as we see fit so far. You know, I worked in IT for the past maybe 5 or 6 years. So, and I've studied it for longer than that. So, all in all, programming and general engineering and design sense, as well as you know, uh, abstract problem solving, total experience has been, yeah, as well as cybersecurity and everything. I've touched everything. Um, it's been about 10 years just in this field alone, just for me. And it's the advent of artificial intelligence is something that anybody could have seen from many years away. This was predicted to be a problem by even people like Stefan Molyneux, and even my 13-year-old self saw a very compelling argument that there's a possibility that as we progress technologically, we're going to enter another, not so much, I guess, industrial revolution. I suspect that we will be leading to reform, like on an industrial level, in way of more mechanical means here soon. Not necessarily to improve output or production capacity, but for the sheer purpose of replacing human labor altogether and eliminating the necessity of human hands handling any of these parts. And people always like to make the counterpoints, like when we eliminate these jobs, obviously you need people to work on the robots, right? You need people to build the no, robots will build the robots. Okay, for one. And for two, the abstraction layer required for an individual to be essentially an engineer, not just like a mechanic, where you replace X part. No, you're essentially an engineer of sorts. To go out and work on these robots, which will, especially for like manufacturing purposes and purposes of actually performing menial tasks, or even transporting things like sea containers from a freight vessel, or just any cargo or anything of the sort. Like, these will use probably complex embedded systems that are extremely expensive and likely use very proprietary technologies that will require extremely specialized skills to even address. And for anybody who hasn't worked on things like this, they wouldn't necessarily understand that, because they're naive. They're ignorant to the fact of how truly complicated these things can be, and there will be such a surplus in labor that there's no real justification for anyone to necessarily say that, oh, we'll just train all these people to do this job. There's no point, because you'll have so many extraneous individuals. The only real purpose that they would serve, and that's the thing, we will have such an excess in our labor populace that there won't even there'll be too many high IQ individuals. And when I say high IQ, I'm speaking anyone capable of doing the work, like relative, I suppose, 110 plus IQ, that would be capable of doing the work, and to a satisfactory level, and there's too many people, even at that deviation, even at that subsect of the IQ strata. So when you think about that, and let's see, let's just see how much of the population that is. How many people are 110 IQ? How many people have 110 IQ? It's about 18% of the population. 18% of the population, roughly, I suppose. I mean, this may just be for this standard deviation, 110 to 119, yeah, 18. And then anything above that, like, I think 130 and onwards is like, what, 8% of the population, I'm not sure. But basically, those will be the only individuals capable of doing much of anything at all. And it's not even something that's divided among, along racial lines. Although between races in general, like people like to argue against the ethics of, arguing things around a genetic component when it comes to intelligence and physical capabilities. They like to believe that everyone's a blank slate and that everybody's capable of just about anything. I mean, I would like to think that I, as a human, have limitless potential as well, and I could be a 7'4", hyper muscular fucking, athlete, D1 athlete, just if I tried hard enough and changed my diet up and, worked out hard enough. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. There's an upper limit to how far you can push your body for the vast majority of individuals. And this is also true when it comes to intelligence. Now, you can improve your IQ, at least relative to the rest of the world that lives in poverty, if you have better conditions, if you're raised in better conditions, like you consume food and receive the proper nutrients on a regular basis. You work out, you use your brain often enough to actually stimulate it, and that sort of thing. And even those factors only raise your IQ like maybe about anywhere from 3 to 9 points, and that's it. And that's still relatively substantial. I think malnutrition is probably the one that hurts people the most. I think that can drop people's IQ as much as like 15 to 20 points in some instances. But as opposed to someone who is fed but not fed enough, you can get an extra 9 points total with roughly 9 points, I believe, just by making the right choices. But that being said, this is almost essentially an immutable characteristic for the vast majority of the population, and for the 80% of more than 80% of people on the earth, that will essentially have their own capabilities rendered almost entirely useless, to where even performing their own labor for free is not even worth it at that point for legal liability issues. You would have to basically force yourself into a state of indentured servitude and sign away all of your rights and all of your protections in order to be considered a viable competitive option to to robotics. Basically worse than Amazon conditions. Like no bathroom breaks, no food, you don't get lunch, you work a 12-hour shift, probably longer, to be honest. And the most pay you get is maybe you get a pizza party at the end of the week. That's this is the direction we're going. Of course, we're already at pizza party levels for bonuses and raises and everything. So, don't get me along that path. But this is a huge problem that's extremely pervasive across all industries. And any job that would require like basic algebraic calculations or any data entry, those jobs are all in jeopardy. Any job that was that where the individual is solely responsible for crunching data and analyzing data, and measuring its trajectory, all those jobs will be rendered to be an anachronism. Like it's just going to be a vestigial organ of society, and for the sake of austerity, like people, for class purposes, just for the sake of novelty, people may remain employed in those industries for as long as we have boomers still everywhere. But as soon as we have the corporate MBA dipshits who who graduate with their finance degrees and everything, a lot of shareholders will be pushing it extremely hard to get almost every single position automated. And the irony in this is that a lot of these people who manage these large monetary funds, hedge funds or the Soros Foundation, or what's his name? Shoot, I can't believe I forget his name. He's a very popular, well, not popular, but he's a very well-renowned stock. Warren Buffett. Yeah, Warren Buffett. Basically all of their data, all their trade data, all the most successful traders and so on is going to be leveraged for these AI models, and pretty soon you will see a market that's entirely driven by artificial intelligence. Now, this is already true to some extent. I mean, there's been machine learning models that have basically been trading on the market for a good while, automatically trading on behalf of people. And some of their heuristics are actually pretty good, and they can get pretty solid returns. But that's besides the point, because the level of complexity and the apparatuses at the disposal of the larger LLMs is far more adept at actually adapting to real world scenarios than any of these other heuristics are even capable of. And that's just unfortunately the case. So all these finance bros are going to put themselves out of business by basically electing to move trillions of dollars, and I'm not even exaggerating. The amount of market share that's gone into artificial intelligence is in the trillions at this point. Now, obviously, when I say trillions, you're probably thinking like, oh, $10 trillion. No, it's more like 2 or 3 trillion, but that's still a lot of fucking money. It's money that no one's ever really going to, be able to fully grasp or conceptualize. And the thing is that do these companies really need all this money to just write? I hate to put it this way. I know it's probably a lot of code, but to just write some code, essentially. That's it. Is that how it goes? I mean, obviously you have NVIDIA and so on that actually formally developed the hardware for these things, but essentially all you have to do is recognize which instruction sets are most commonly utilized by LLMs, and that's how you construct your hardware interface. That's how you do it. I'm not going to say it's not complicated, because it's probably not really necessarily easy to delineate that factor. Obviously, CPUs are more general, versatile objects, so the likes of AMD will likely never be able to produce a competitive option, especially since their RISC-based GPUs are lagging severely behind NVIDIA, and AMD doesn't really have, well, the many years of built-up capital to fund a full-fledged AI and machine learning GPU team or ASIC team for that specific purpose, because they literally only just started catching up. Like, they were in dire straits back in like 2013, 2012. They really needed their Zen architecture to take off, and they've only literally just started recovering. Meanwhile, NVIDIA has been prospering for pretty much the past 30 years, almost 40 years now. It's absolute insanity. And the thing is, NVIDIA had probably like a 5 or 6 year head start. They've been working on these artificial intelligence models for quite a while. But this is all besides the point. That's all besides the point. The point is that much money has been mobilized for the sole purpose of making the general workforce obsolete. And nobody's asking the question. You know, all of these extremely intelligent individuals who go out and decide, we need to invest in this software, we need to invest in this hardware architecture so that we can replace all of these jobs for very low cost. None of these extremely intelligent individuals who are orchestrating this whole mess, none of them stop to consider what happens when all of these people lose their jobs. What happens when people are no longer able to, let's say, like women are no longer able to buy their makeup, or men are no longer even able to feed themselves, or people aren't able to feed their families anymore. What happens? And here's the thing, and you've already seen this in a lot of countries starting off, where they have not even necessarily voluntary death programs. They literally recommend people to get assisted suicide now. They're telling you to your face that they're culling the population, that you're too useless to keep alive. That's too much of a burden to have you around. So basically, the elites, whatever the status quo or the reigning regime of power would have you believe, is that you as an individual are no longer necessary. That you as an individual no longer have a right to live. And, they somehow believe they have a divine right of their own. A divine right as an individual. That they possess a certain level of intelligence, a level of artifice that's unparalleled to all. No one could possibly compare to Nancy Pelosi, the Queen of the Senate or Congress. I'm sorry, I don't even remember if she was a senator or the House representative, but it doesn't really matter. She's a witch. I mean, obviously, with all that insider training, she's a complete genius. She's smarter than Warren Buffett herself. Everybody should be listening to Nancy Pelosi, not Warren Buffett. What the fuck? Allow me to stop. Anyways. Essentially, each and every person, and this is the thing, it's going to get to a point where we only have a certain subsection of the population that is going to be working towards these improvements to better artificial intelligence, so that it's more effective, so that it can serve better. It's no longer about the functioning of civilization of a whole. It's about the prosperity of a few individuals. And the rhetoric of the current leadership is such that they will communicate to you that eugenics and everything to do with, those social Darwinist principles, initially espoused at the beginning and the beginning of the 20th century and the late 19th century. Well, even early on in the 19th century, I believe. That these things were fallacious, they were racist and horrible. Yet here we are, where they're orchestrating the same principles, except, they're going about it a more roundabout way. Now, the most concerning part to me, I mean, you see things now like they're creating the self-replicating vaccine, and there's all these irregular deaths and excess deaths from after COVID-19, and general public health has declined. But the self-replicating viral vaccine is something I'm extremely that's extremely concerning to me, because this essentially means that they have essentially almost created a bioweapon. I mean, it's not necessarily a bioweapon, but it genuinely demonstrates the capacity for them to insert whatever genes they see fit into your DNA with the viral infection at this point. And they've already proven that they're willing to genetically modify organisms for that specific purpose. So who's to say they haven't done it already? But that aside, I mean, these things can be weaponized. And, the best way to take down a massively large foe is to gradually whittle them down over time. Death by a million cuts, so to speak. You don't take them on all at once, like a David versus Goliath type of deal. David, of course, is not going to go up to Goliath with a fucking sword and try to fight him like fisticuffs mano a mano. No, obviously not. David is going to utilize the tool that will give him the greatest advantage in that conflict. So, of course, if he just used a sling and punched a big chunk out of his head, obviously that's one way to do it. So what's the equivalent in this instance, where you have a massive number of individuals that you need removed prior to your usurpment, I guess. Usurpation? I don't know. Prior to usurping whatever current institutions of power exist. And not even necessarily usurping it, just taking the mantle of humanity and placing it over yourself, and using all of the accomplishments of human history, not just to create new entertainment for yourself, but also to produce things for yourself so that you can live a perennial life of just self-indulgent decadence. That's all it is. It literally become WALL-E. Just a bunch of fat people floating around in their fucking recliners, drinking big ass Slurpee cups and shit like that. Ugh. Oh man. I mean, that aside, this is the route that they're going. And people get angry over prospects such as eugenics. Are you angry now? You should be. This is something that threatens not just one set of individuals, this threatens all of humanity itself. Tell us, what advantage is there if an absolute imbecile like Nancy Pelosi is allowed to preserve herself on her little throne of leathery skin and God knows how much Botox and various other cosmetic chemicals that she applies to herself? On top of all the fucking silicon, no doubt. Oh well. It's very unfortunate. I mean, I can tell you now that it's the advent of AI is something that um, at least from my understanding, this is something that didn't necessarily begin until until about 1 year after the Biden presidency. Excuse me. And that was right around the time when a bunch of the financial hardship started to rear its ugly head from not just all the poor decisions that God Emperor Joe Biden made at the beginning of his term, revoking a lot of Trump's regulatory changes as well as tariffs and everything else as far as oil and drilling goes. um, it's obvious what the catalyst was, because under periods of financial hardship, especially when you have an economy strictly driven by appeasing the shareholders, it's not even about the consumer anymore. I mean, the consumer is a factor, yes, but most companies, like if you listen to Jeff Bezos speak, for example, he will never say much to the the ode to the customers themselves. Just more so, what's the best way to retain customers? He'll never say what's the best way to please customers. He always speaks in terms of pleasing the shareholders. The shareholders. And this is the mindset of nearly every company. And the thing is, a lot of these finance bros who are part of these, like the corporate MBA douchebags, as Aaron Clary refers to them, they're hyper fixated on improved profit margins each quarter. And there are many businesses like Apple and Amazon, for example, that have expanded to nearly every single available market available to them, outside of like North Korea or like maybe Madagascar. But I'm sure Amazon still delivers to Madagascar. Let's be real here. But that whole premise is the driving factor for a lot of the changes that people see in these organizations, and especially the massive push for artificial intelligence. Because when immense financial hardship is levied against these companies, they have to make up those profit margins elsewhere. And the only way for them to do that is to massively implement things like artificial intelligence and lay off large, high-paid swaths of their workforce. In this case, for Amazon, it would be just people who work in areas like, I don't know, inventory or logistics type deal, or, let's say, cloud engineers and that sort of thing, or cloud sales for, the cloud sector, and that sort of thing. All these jobs can be done by AI. I mean, it's pretty obvious, because if you're a salesman for cloud services, odds are you probably have no idea what the products are to begin with. And not only that, but most people, especially if the artificial intelligence is given enough information, which it surely has access to the entirety of the internet, and to leverage for or towards that end. So naturally, it's going to be able to do the job better, and possibly even find a solution for the customer that a normal sales agent would not have been capable of doing in short order. They may be more efficient in it as well. It's just how it is. And, people will think, oh, this is unfair. And, it is true, but if you think about it, many people voted for this. Like, you guys don't realize, you need to understand, you need to look past yourselves. When people vote for something out of ego or virtue or ethics, like, that's great. That's great. You prove to everybody that you're a great person. That's fantastic. But in doing so, you've inflicted grave actual harm to society because of your offense, because of your fragile sensibilities. Now everyone is suffering as a result of your choices. It's just how it is. So anyone who complains, really, especially if they voted for the Biden presidency, you really lose that right. It's not something that's really afforded to you. You're not allowed to complain, and I hate to say it, but we have opened Pandora's box as far as artificial intelligence goes. There's no putting it back in the fucking box, guys. No amount of reduction in costs and labor, no amount of reduction in costs and logistics, or just upkeep for a business, or changes in regulations, or reduction in costs in general, will change the fact that these companies have sunk billions of dollars into this endeavor, and they seek to utilize it. That's the thing. Whenever things like this happen, like, it's the same with the Industrial Revolution. It was such a revolutionary deal and it produced so much wealth. And it doesn't matter who it produced wealth for. The fact is that individuals are benefiting from it to a very great degree. So, if in this instance it's more so the shareholders and the corporations. So, if the corporations benefit from it and the shareholders benefit from it, there is no incentive for them to stop. The only way that you actually get them to stop is by alternative means. We have an artificially imposed tyranny by a lot of these organizations now, as they form trusts and almost pseudo governments of their own, forging deals with one another across ideological lines, and even working with each other, leveraging their own models to tip the scales in favor of their ideals, their rhetoric, whatever they believe works best for the world. And they've been doing this for a very long time. And unfortunately, people have taken far too long to actually wake up to this. This all began essentially like back in 2010. Like the original videos of Jordan Peterson on a campus, arguing with a lot of these leftists on a campus. So, and I hate to say it, but this is like when it came to its essentially boiling point, right around when Gamergate occurred, the initial Gamergate. I mean, I believe that was 2012, but it started even before that. These controversies were ignored forever. And now we can't ignore them. It's no longer an option, because we're staring down the barrel. And, I remember when I was about maybe 15, 14 years old. So, about a decade ago now. I remember sitting in abject despair. Like, sure, President Trump got elected. But that doesn't matter. Because even then, it was too little too late. I mean, there may have been a small, very infinitesimally small chance of salvaging things at that point. But too few people recognize the issues in society to actually turn things around. And I hate to say it, but if for the past 12 years we've had completely Republican representation, a lot of the problems we see today, especially when it comes to unemployment, well, maybe not necessarily Republican, but people who followed the populist mindset of Donald Trump, which there are plenty of candidates now, much like Ron DeSantis and so on. Basically, if we continue to elect individuals such as this for that period of time, there may have been a very, very small chance of salvaging all of the damage that has been done to this country and the American people and the world as a whole. But unfortunately, we have been led down the most catastrophic path. And if you listen to Elon Musk, I believe he likes to give people hope. As though we're playing Russian roulette with artificial intelligence. But if anything that the past 20 or so years has proven at all is that people are greedy, that they are malevolent individuals, and solipsistic. They do not see past themselves, and they're only out to benefit their own. So, when I say this, Elon Musk says, "Oh, well, we're playing Russian roulette, and only one barrel is loaded." Well, in this instance, if the game is rigged, if the person who set the barrel, let's say you have a two-person game, the person who loaded the gun and spins the barrel doesn't spin the barrel, or the actual cylinder where the bullets go into. He just clicks it manually with his hand and counts each click until he reaches the slot where the bullet's in, and then he hands it to the other guy. And the other guy pulls the trigger and his brains get blown out all over the place. Then, essentially, this is essentially the scenario we're dealing with here in this instance. I agree to a certain extent. If AI is leveraged properly and is implemented responsibly, we could set it up in a way where it doesn't jeopardize people's livelihoods and the rest of society and our civilization as a whole. But unfortunately, things are being done at breakneck speeds, and every industry is they are moving to replace every single field, from accounting to psychology, to even IT and recruiting. They're moving to replace all of these things at breakneck speeds immediately. Immediately as this technology comes out, they move towards this end, which is absolutely ludicrous if you think about it. But the signs are all there. You'd have to be a fool to deny it. The thing is, even when Elon Musk said that thing about the Russian roulette quote, he himself, you can hear the despondence in his voice. There's no hope. There's only desolation. It's unfortunately how it is. But he says these things to give false hope to the rest of the populace. To say, don't give up quite yet. Because if you are an intelligent individual, you recognize the trajectory of where things are going now. And you've seen it coming many, many, many years in advance. It's like watching the slowest motion train wreck you've ever seen in your life, and you just can't stop it. Because you are just one person at the end of the day. And at this point, no amount of money or influence from any particular individual is going to be enough to stave off the tides. No amount of Elon Musk's or Donald Trump's are enough to save the free world, let alone America. And that's just how it is. You may be witnessing the final days of freedom and liberty across the globe. Y'all have a good one.